So my project bikes, where do I start? This is a wee quick guide on YouTube on building a project bike. Stick to the one manufacturer for starters. Originally bought this frame first of all, the adventure frame for 50 quid. Then I ended up buying the wheels that are on this bike here, just the rims obviously, I'll explain in a minute, with the tyres on it as well, right? Realising they're no fitting due to because of the hubs, right? The hubs at the back here, they're on this one, they're called boost hubs, right? And basically the type of frame this was here, on this bike here, was basically, I don't know what it is, but it's an old hub system with a screw and nut bolt. It doesn't actually have the through axle bolt that goes right through the wheel. So that was the first problem I had. And I was butchering this bike. I was basically filing it down inside here to make this wee bar fit. You know what I mean? So I could fit it right through, and I was improvising with all these wee nuts and daft wee bits. And in the end, I eventually got it all together, tweaking it. It cost me, I'll be honest with you, this is my first project bike that I built, no with these wheels in it, because it was other ones at the start. Basically 800 quid, 50 quid for the frame, 90 quid for the tyres, then I had like £20 for grips, about £100 for the gear system, then there was about maybe 50 quid, 60 quid for these things here, the hydraulic brakes. But then because I bought a batch lot, basically I had to try and put it all together. I bought discs and everything. Obviously you can see the big larger discs on them. And then basically I had to buy caliper increases as well for these discs. And it just one thing led to another, and then brake pedals, and a hell of a lot actually. And cutting a long story short, don't quote me down to the T and how much everything, oh, and the post as well, and the seat. The time I got round to it, and the time I put it in the bike shop, because the one thing I just couldn't get a day was tune in. And eventually it cost me 140 quid to take it to a bike shop, and they tuned it in for me. But then they had the problem with it as well. But cutting a long story short, this bike cost me 800 quid to build from scratch. Right, so I now see why folk didn't want to build project bikes. Right, second of all, is the guy, I went to the shop to go and pick it up. He says, there's a problem with your bike, mate. He says, we can only charge you as far as we can go with it. And what do you mean by that? Because originally, because of the boost hubs that are on now on this bike now, the correct way around, when I had them on this bike, basically the boost hubs are too big. So I had to spleen the forks. Now people know what I mean by spleening the forks. And you shouldn't really do it with shocks that actually move, that are functional. Like the bounce. But I did it anyway. And basically the problem was, where I put a sticker right here, basically your disc, but even then, even though I've actually connected it all together, it's not that much of a difference in the gap wise. But that's what the guy was saying, just for the dimension of a proper bike shop, that basically the gap in here, it was pretty much rubbing against or touching the frame of the bike. Now I just put a washer in and spleened the spikes a wee bit, well, spleened the forks to make it fit, and I tightened it real tight. But the problem I had the small axle bars, the wee screw ones is here, I go here, it was very tight to the nut, where this one, as you can see now, because it's the right way around now, you've got plenty of room now where the nut screws right on. Where this nut, I don't know if I can loosen it or not, I can't now, but anyway, that nut was right up to the edge here, it was barely holding on. Sorry, excuse me, I've got a bit of cold today. So it was making the front wheel a wee bit unsafe, but I've been cycling it for ages now. I noticed it indexed it in for me, and it was running fine. Sorry, I was just badly coughing there. And I basically just thinking about myself to make the wheels fit. The guy said to me, by all means we can change the forks, we can do this, if you want to spend more money on it. And I was like, nah, I'm done with it. I'm spending about 800 quid on it. I'm actually getting sick of it now. About 600 quid probably doing it up myself from scratch, and then learning the hard way. It's actually trying to get the nuts and bolts to fit it, right? That was the hardest bit of it. Then realising the wheels weren't the right, they were boost hubs. I don't know what the other kind of type of wheels you call them, because I'm no a bike expert, right? So anyway, I've took a note, and it's took me about 1.5 years to build this bike, collecting all the pieces, and I thought, see in the end, was it really worth building your own bike? For the experience, probably yes. for understanding it, never again, I said to myself. But I said that, never again, but I already clearly bought Codar brakes, which are now on this bike. I bought so many other parts for bikes to put on it, and I got deals here and there, and I was tempted. And at the end of the day, another pair of set of wheels came up, which is now these orange ones that were on it. Another ones came up on sale on Messenger. So I put a bid in for them and won them, bought them, went to go and pick them up, and basically when I went to go and pick them up, I thought I'd keep them for spares because I quite liked the orange ones, and then I realised, I quite fancy building another project bike there because I've actually got Codar brakes still, and I've got bits and pieces in the garage. All I really need is a frame. So this is where this one came into it. Ta-da! Trek, £250. I bought the Trek aluminium frame, 2021 frame. So I got this frame. I bought it just last week in London. Came up the road with it. Basically went to go and put the wheels together. Realised a big thing, wheels are not going to connect. Because basically it was the old hub system, right, on the wheels. And basically, well, these ones here basically. And the newer ones are the now axle bolts that go through with the boost system. So while I was cleaning up my garage, a long story short, I was raging. I was like, here we go again. So here I go again, butchering another bike to try and make things work, connecting it, trying to force things to fit. Thinking how I'm going to do nuts and solder and all this crap to try and make nuts fit and pieces go together. So I'm basically making another Frankenstein bike. And then I had a brainwave, went in the garage, checked the bike out, cut a long story short, realised that these wheels and these wheels were basically better if they were on opposite bikes. Even though I've just got them tuned in, because the boost bikes, the boost hubs, would go better with this one because it fits perfectly. And whatever these ones are, shredded ones or whatever they're called, don't quote me on that, I'm no expert in bikes, basically connected to this type of frame better. So basically put the whole frame all together, I stripped it all down, and many parts and many problems, as I realised when I come to it, was what I realised is these are 4.8 tyres, right, with the 26-inch rims. These tyres are the 4.0 tyres with the 26-inch rims, right? But the problem is with the 4.8s up here, they weren't fitting onto this bike, onto the blue one, the adventure one, because basically they were too big, like slightly too big. So basically I did a whole rebotch of just basically stripping everything down, swapping all the tyres round, swapping all the alloy wheels round. So basically these wheels, they were originally, the alloy wheels were originally on this bike. And I took them all off and just started again, stripped it all down. I couldn't get the cassette off the original this bike that I've just spent 800 quid on. I just had like this year done. I thought I'd learn a lesson for it, and basically I couldn't get the cassette off the back of this one. And Ken what, I just got to the point, I was like, Ken what, stuff this. I'm not doing this game again, man. So I basically just left it on it. I actually started stripping this bike down. I thought, stuff it, I'm just going to strip this bike down. Started stripping it all down, taking all the parts off it, and moving it on to the other one. I'm still going to use this one. It's not like it's a total loss. In fact, actually, both bikes are perfect now. That's how they're meant to be on the rims and on the frames. So they're actually safe now, that's how they're meant to be. So basically I built this bike up, and all it just needs now is a chain put in it, which lacking experience in, but I'll get there eventually. Indexed in from the gear shifter, because it's a Shimano gear system, and basically all the cables and that all tightened up, and basically a bike seat, a saddle. And I've checked the brakes there, they seem to be actually fine. Everything's spot on. And that's how the bike should be put together. You know what I mean? That's how it should be done. So that's now correctly built. Now back to this one. This one is now correctly built. But the problem is I've took all the parts off it. But all it needs now is 4 bolts at the bottom here and the back caliper. As I said to you, the caliper's now off. And basically needs a new chain. I would say it needs a new Shimano derailleur and a Shimano 10-speed shifter. And I think once you get that done again, hopefully I'll learn that in this course, and I'll go on next week how to fix your bike basically, and I'll be able to do this myself. And then once I do that, it'll be fine. Now as I can see, look, it would have to prove me wrong, wouldn't it? No, but at the end of the day, it is that it's came what it is. It's caused actually because your brake's loose through, because I've not got it screwed and tied in. But look how smooth this bike moves up and down. That's how it should be. You know what I mean? So there's none stopping the bike from moving, functionally, now. And I think that's the right way how it should have been done in the first place. You know what I mean? Once I put this one, here I've stripped the parts off it, but all it needs to be put back together. This one just needs a bike seat, a saddle, and basically, oh, the paper dropped there now. And basically it just needs it indexed in, but as you see, oh, well, try and not catch a wheel though, that's the thing. See, this is the problem, I can't actually push it right now. I can't actually push it, but it actually does run smoothly. The only one thing I would say with this bike, but I'm going to need to actually try to learn to get done, and I'm going to need to try and make it a bit better in here, because in here I think the disc's rubbing a wee bit, just a tiny wee tad, but a wee bit of experience. But apart from that, touch wood now, it just needs all put together. And that is basically it. But so far this Trek bike, between buying the wheels and putting it all together, I reckon $250 for the frame, 80 quid for the wheels, swapping all the parts around. But anyway, I'll just talk about this Trek bike now. I spent £800 on this one, probably doing it all up. And I spent probably 250, 250 and an extra 80 quid on the wheels, so about 300 notes, right? Probably the time I finish bringing it up, I'll probably spend about 400 quid doing this bike up, maybe 450 if I do it myself, providing I didn't put it anywhere near a bike servicing shop and I do it myself. You know what I mean? So in the end, I bought this bike for 800 quid and I bought this bike for basically 400 quid. If I can do it myself, without putting it back in a bike shop again to get done. Don't get me wrong, I've no qualms with the bike shop in Livingston. Guys were great, they've done a great job, Scots Bikes or whatever they're called. Did a really great crack of their job, doing what I did so far with it, especially, you know, Frankenstein bike. But I've got to learn these things myself at the end of the day, because if you don't learn yourself, how do you learn? You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, bit of advice and a bit of warning. If you're going to build a project bike, stick to the one manufacturer. Then start buying pieces of bikes like what I did, all up and down the internet and hoping it'll all go together. Especially the wheel situation when it comes to wheels and frames. Wheels and frames are totally different. If you maybe just go to the same manufacturer for the wheels and the same manufacturer for the frames, you're laughing here, but then you're talking the year and model number as well, and that's the next problem you're going to have. And it just gives you a wee bit of headache sometimes to actually putting it all together. But once you get it all together, it's fine. You know what I mean? But that's my experience on building a bike from scratch. It's not the most easiest, I'll tell you that for sure. I got there in the end, and they're modified to a degree and built up from scratch. I've done pretty well with them. My first 2 attempts, which I was only hoping to have one, to build bikes, but I reckon if I build any more bikes, let's put it this way, my partner will kill me here. So, no more building bikes. Just need, as I said to you, this one just needs tuned up, chain on and indexed in. This one just needs Shimano derailleur and a Shimano shifter, where also retuned in, back in again. But it's technically, as you've seen, running smooth. Both of them are running smooth now, but it's how they're meant to be built. I'm really impressed with them actually now, because that's how they should have been in the first place. I was just going to leave it because I had this one up and running. I thought, I'm not what to muck about with it. But then I was starting to buy wee bits and bobs for this one to start Frankenstein it together, and I thought, okay, what, you're just making things harder for yourself anyway. Let's just make it a bit more easier. And that's what I decided to do. So I've done the right thing with working on it for 5 hours, but it's the right choice to do. And hopefully this has helped somebody out there when it comes to building bikes and a wee bit of experience. But it's not a cheap process, I'll tell you that for sure. I understand now why folk didn't really go building bikes. It's not the most easiest thing to build. With my Frankenstein bike here, as I like to call it, it'll always still be my Frankenstein bike because that was the first bike I ever built. But in the end I still had to take it to a shop to get indexed in because I just didn't have a clue why the wheels weren't fitting. But obviously I know why now, because I were an inch short from the frame, the fork, sorry. They were an inch short and you were spleening the forks basically to make them fit, and they weren't happy with doing that as a professional bike shop. They weren't happy about doing stuff like that. But then they cover debate about money and etc, etc. So there's other ways we can get round it by all means. Basically want me buying new forks for it, but I just had enough at that point. So I just, once I go to home, I know it was indexed in properly, and I did what I had to do to put it all together, and that's generally it really. I basically just splined the forks myself and just made the discs fit until I got them fitting and got them turning, because that was the problem. Boy said that, he says you're going to have a bite when he breaks, basically, because I can't get the discs on them, because for safety reasons. But I made it fit. Well, working for Mitsubishi, I've realised there's always a way, and I will, and also the military as well. You've also got to think of other solutions and getting round things. So that's what I did there, and it worked. But now I've decided after 5 hours to re-strip the both bikes down, put them all back together the right way around, and the both of them are spot on perfect. These both need indexed in, and a couple of things now on this one now, and that's it. And I hope